All right, what's going on, everybody? The shirt makes me look like a 10-year-old boy, but we'll roll with it anyways. So UFC 314 is this weekend. I've been excited for this for weeks because it's been weeks on weeks on weeks that nothing really interesting has been happening fight-wise with pro boxing, waiting for Cinco de Mayo weekend to get all of their big fights there, and Misfits postponing both their events. We've really only had UFC, so this is going to be a big event. So I'll be going through the card and breaking all the fights down and giving how I think these fights are going to go. But real quick, before I get into the video, 93% of you guys aren't subscribed, so if you like UFC, influencer boxing, or pro boxing content, I post 3 to 4 times on this channel at least, so make sure you subscribe. I appreciate you. Also, at 200 subs, I'll be doing my first watch party, so let me know if you'll pop out to that. I appreciate you. And quick note, I only predict the fights that I know I can predict on this fight. If I feel like I don't know enough... Sorry, I did a bit of the scat man there. If I feel like I don't know enough about these fighters, I don't call predictions on this card because I just don't want to talk out of my ass on this channel. I don't want to seem like I don't know what I'm talking about and just cap. So yeah, sorry if I skip your favorite fighter, but I should know a good percentage of these fights because it's a huge card. Alright, so the first fight I'm going to be talking about is Nikita Krylov versus Dominic Reyes. Now, people keep saying that Dominic Reyes is like one fight away from a title shot. I don't really understand why, because he's only won 2 of his last 5 fights. And his 2 wins were Anthony Smith and Jacoby, which Jacoby is a pretty good win, but Anthony Smith at this point in his career isn't. He lost to Span, Prohaska, and Blachowicz. So he lost to the top of the division, so I don't really understand. I don't think... Like, maybe light heavyweight is just not in a great spot right now, but I just don't see that happening. But anyways, this is actually a pretty good matchup, especially if Reyes was in his prime, but they're kind of similar in age. Reyes is 35 and Krylov is 33 or 32. Krylov is known for his body kicks and jiu-jitsu. He also mixes in boxing, but I would say that Dominic Reyes is a better boxer overall. Definitely. Dominic Reyes mixes in body kicks very well too. But in a striking matchup, I would probably lean into Krylov, even though he is a high-pressure fighter and he swings. There is a chance he runs into a straight left hand by Dominic Reyes, and he does have a very powerful straight left hand. There is a chance, but I don't know, man. Dominic Reyes is 35. He had good wins against other not-so-great light heavyweights, and I think Krylov is more so on an upturn right now. I don't know why they're talking about Reyes about being on an uprise instead of him, because Krylov is coming off 3 wins in a row. He beat Span, which beat Dominic Reyes. He beat Ozdemir, which is a good win, and he beat Gustafsson, which is a very good win. But I didn't realize is Krylov hasn't fought since 2023. So Dominic Reyes does have the activity advantage, and usually I say activity wins fights, but I don't know, man. I just see Dominic Reyes getting TKO'd in round 2. I just really do. I see Krylov having success early. I think if Krylov goes for takedowns, Dominic Reyes will stuff them because he does have good takedown defense. We've seen that in his career. But if Krylov gets him on the ground, he could submit him. But I think that Krylov is going to hurt him early in round 1. I think Reyes is going to hold on, but he's going to get finished in round 2 by TKO. I think it's going to be like a body kick into a right hand by Krylov, something like that, and it'll end in round 2. All right, now this one's going to be fun. It's a fight of spiritual warfare, brother. It's Bryce Mitchell versus Gene Silva. Now, I think it's as simple as if this fight stays standing, it's going to be a problem for Bryce Mitchell. If the fight goes to the ground, it's going to be a problem for Gene Silva. So it's a little bit hard to predict, but... yeah, Bryce Mitchell, though, if Gene Silva doesn't have bad ground game by any means, though, he has 2 submission wins under his belt, and he's pretty good, but Bryce Mitchell is just elite at jiu-jitsu. He will hold you there. He will ground and pound you. By the way, got one of the most satisfying, brutal ground and pound victories over Kron Gracie. Man, Kron Gracie's strategy in that fight was devastating. Bryce Mitchell has been saying that he's been having demons in his dreams that look like Josh Emmett. He didn't say that they look like Josh Emmett. I threw that in there. But, yeah, we know that Gene Silva has elite striking, especially elite boxing. He has unreal power in his right hand and left hand. He also is very slick, very calm. He lands nasty counter punches. So if Bryce Mitchell tries to do his winging boxing, and be aggressive and mad like he seems like he is in this fight, if he goes in there emotional and tries to strike with Gene Silva, he will counter shot him and probably knock out Bryce Mitchell. But on the other hand, if Bryce Mitchell gets his hands on Gene Silva, I don't see him being able to stop Bryce Mitchell from grappling him. Now, I know a good amount of people probably want to see Bryce Mitchell lose, but the logical thing is, I think Bryce Mitchell's going to win this fight. I think that this is going to be a dominant grappling matchup. I'm not going to lie. If you really look at Gene Silva's fight resume so far in the UFC, this is his most credible matchup besides Jordan and Dober. So he isn't as battle-tested as Bryce Mitchell. Bryce Mitchell has fought the top of featherweight. He has fought Kron Gracie, Josh Emmett, Dan Ige, Ilia Topuria, Edson Barboza, way better, and he is way more war-tested than Gene Silva. I'm not saying that Gene Silva is overrated by any means. His grappling might be, at least at the top of the top echelon of the UFC, but his striking definitely isn't. That's why I don't think Bryce Mitchell is going to be striking with Gene Silva. I think this is going to be a matchup where Bryce is going to be shooting a lot. If Gene can stuff the takedowns, raps. Bryce Mitchell is going to get caught, but I see Bryce Mitchell TKOing Gene Silva. It could even be, I'm not even going to lie to you, it could be early just because how dominant I think the grappling aspect can be, but I don't think it's going to be that simple. I think that Bryce Mitchell, you know what? I don't know. I see a finish. I see Bryce Mitchell beating up Gene Silva on the ground for 2 rounds, and he's going to sink a submission in round 3. I'm going to say a Darce or a choke of some sorts. Gene Silva's going to get caught trying to get up from ground and pound, and he's going to give up his neck, and Bryce Mitchell's going to submit him in round 3. All right, next fight, Yair Rodriguez versus Patricio Pitbull. Now, I'm not going to lie, I've seen people are very excited about Patricio Pitbull finally going to the UFC, but I'm not going to lie, man. It's probably too late, and you couldn't tell me that they could have found a better opponent for him to at least get a win in the UFC if they want that to happen, because I get that they would want to test him coming into UFC for the first time, being a big deal in other places, but this is an awful matchup for Patricio Pitbull. He is 37 years old, and he's facing a 32-year-old Yair Rodriguez, who is the most crafty kickboxer probably in UFC history in general. He has thrown some of the most ridiculous kicks that I thought are only in movies and shit like that. Actually ridiculous work from Yair Rodriguez in all of his fights. And Patricio has power in his hands, don't get me wrong, but he is mainly a jiu-jitsu fighter. And Yair has been tested in every single aspect in UFC. And yeah, he has lost 5 times, but Patricio has lost 7 times outside the UFC. And his first fight in the UFC is a 5'11" Yair Rodriguez, who is 6 inches taller than him. Lord, I can't see the reach in front of me. Lord knows how big the reach is. If Patricio cannot get Yair Rodriguez down, he is in serious trouble. 37 years old, gonna try to strike with Yair Rodriguez. I don't know why the UFC is setting up Pitbull like this. I think there should have been at least a little bit under a tier of him debuting in the UFC at 37 years old. He is not Michael Venom Page. Michael Venom Page has contained his speed throughout the years. But man. Yeah, I think that Yair Rodriguez is going to work the body of Pitbull, kicking his body, and he's going to set up a head kick upstairs. Either in round 1 or round 2. I think it could be that quick. He could probably throw some ridiculous kick and it might catch Pitbull. So yeah, I'm happy that Pitbull is finally in the UFC, but this feels like a setup. They should have gave him a different opponent. So yeah, I'm going to go Yair Rodriguez by TKO in round 2. He's going to land a head kick and finish him on the ground. All right, next fight, Michael Chandler versus Paddy Pimblett. Now, this is actually a very interesting one as well, because this could play out 2 different ways in my mind. Very similar to the other fights on this card, or at least the Bryce Mitchell versus Gene Silva one. I feel like this is very similar because, as we know, Michael Chandler is a little ball of energy and probably one of the dumbest UFC fighters when it comes to about to finish the fight. He always seems to mess up somehow and mess up him winning the fight. Could this be another instance of that? I can see it playing out exactly like this. As we know, Paddy Pimblett holds his chin up in the air and has gotten caught before, but I don't think he's been dropped, I don't think, but he has been rocked. Michael Chandler has some real power in his hands, and he does have wrestling and a wrestling background, but for some reason, defensively, he isn't that great on the ground. He has good takedown defense at 63%, it says here, but he got rear naked by Dustin Poirier, and obviously Paddy Pimblett is better at jiu-jitsu than Dustin Poirier. No offense to Dustin Poirier, but I see Michael Chandler landing a big shot on Paddy, maybe even early in the fight. Can you just imagine? I know I've done early finishes a good amount on this. Just imagine for a second. Michael Chandler absolutely rocks Paddy in the first round, right? Paddy falls down. Paddy rolls over Michael Chandler when he goes to a TKO and gets a submission in the first round. I am not lying to you. I see that sequence happening in the very first round. Am I going to predict that? I don't know. Should I? I was accurate in my last video, so I'm going to do it. In round 1, Michael Chandler is going to rock Paddy Pimblett and go for he's going to go rushing in for the TKO, and he's going to get caught in a submission. In round 1, I'm calling this. Michael Chandler is going to crack Paddy Pimblett with like an overhand right. Paddy's going to like fall back into the cage, and Paddy's going to catch him trying to TKO him in a submission. Is there a chance that Paddy Pimblett absolutely gets chinned in this fight? Absolutely. I'm not going to lie. People have been saying, when is Paddy going to get knocked out because of his striking defense? This could be it. But it is so hard to pick Michael Chandler when he's only won 2 fights in the UFC. And he still gets these big fights against contenders. So if Paddy's really a future champion, he should beat Michael Chandler, definitely. And I think he's going to submit Michael Chandler in the first round. I think he's going to get rocked at some point. Maybe it's not a first round finish, but there's going to be a finish. In my opinion, there will definitely be a finish. It's not like Chandler doesn't go to decision. He does against Gaethje and Charles Oliveira. And Oliveira is also very good at jiu-jitsu also. So maybe it is a decision win for Chandler or Paddy. But I don't know how to call a decision. I just see Paddy getting rocked and then catching Chandler in a submission. So let me know if you guys agree. I'm going Paddy Pimblett by submission in round 1. Bold take, I think. All right, now this one's going to make me sad, and it's going to make a lot of people sad with this prediction. I don't really know what the consensus is in this eyes of the people is for this fight, because it could go either way. Yeah, man. I'm talking about Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez for the featherweight championship. Fuck. Why do they have to do the short kings, man? We can't go out like that, bro. We cannot go out like this, Volk. But unfortunately, I think we're going out like that because obviously Volkanovski is one of the best featherweights of all time. But, guys, he's won 2 of his last 5 fights now. Fuck. And yes, it's against Ilia Topuria and Islam twice. Crazy competition that he's been facing recently. He's always faced tough competition in the UFC. That's why everybody loves him. His humble personality. But Alex Volkanovski is 36 years old now. And Diego Lopez is in the prime of his career, at least reaching it at this point. This is going to put him up there, obviously being the featherweight champion. How do I see this playing out? Obviously, we know Volkanovski. He has good striking. He is very fast, even at his age, as we've seen in the recent fights, even though he's been knocked out. But Diego Lopez is very good, in my opinion. I think he deserves this fight. I know some people saying it's a little early. Yeah. His best fight is Brian Ortega. But he looked good in that fight, and he hurt Ortega bad a couple times in that fight. And Ortega is very, very tough. Now, how do I see this playing out? As we know, Diego Lopez has incredible clinch work. He lands that uppercut in the clinch like a cannonball. He has unreal power. He will control you in the clinch easily with knees and all of that. And Volk is a shorter fighter, so he is going to be going for a takedown in this fight. And how I see this working out is probably a very close fight for 3 rounds or 4. And then Volk is going to go for a takedown. I think Diego Lopez is going to stuff it. And he's going to catch him in the clinch, whether it's a uppercut in the clinch, a knee, I don't know, but unfortunately, I see it being a knee in the clinch to the head to Volkanovski is going to hurt him in round 3 or 4. And he's going to get TKO'd again, man. Unfortunate. And this is probably going to be the end of Volk's career. And, man, Volk in his prime was one of the most fun fighters to watch in the UFC. So, if this is it for Volk, it's a great career. And Diego Lopez is going to start a new era at featherweight. And Diego Lopez is going to be a badass champion. I wonder what the first contender fight is going to be. But I'm not going to fully count out the short kings because we're talking about Volkanovski here. But we're talking about a 36-year-old Volkanovski. So, unfortunately, I got Diego Lopez by TKO in the 4th round. Now, according to me, every single fight is going to be finished. So, hopefully, because we need one of these cards like that. Because some of these big cards that have been recently have been disappointing. So, all right, those are my predictions for UFC 3. I'm such a good YouTuber. I'm so good. But anyways, those are my predictions. Let me know if you guys agree down below. I really do think there's going to be a lot of finishes on the card at least. I really see a finish at every single one of these fights. If any of them could go to decision, I can imagine Krylov versus Reyes going to decision, if anything. But let me know if you guys agree this card has a lot of finishing potential. I do think it does. I didn't want to include it because my phone was going to explode, but Mitch Raposo, he's around this area. He's fighting on the prelim, so shout out Mitch Raposo. Go get this dub. I predict that he gets a knockout. I'm just going to say it real quick. So, shout out to all you guys watching. Make sure you guys subscribe, like the video, comment. All that matters because I'm still a channel trying to grow. If you guys want to follow any of my socials, they will be in the description. Also, a lot of playlists for my videos are also there. If you want to binge some royalty, that's what's up. So, yeah, man, if you disagree with any of my takes, please debate with me in the comments. I love doing that. I love talking about UFC. That's why I have this channel. So, thank you guys for listening to me yap like usual. God bless every single one of you. And peace out.